Hey there, people! So today, Terraria 1.4.4, the Labor of Love update is finally here, and I am just bringing you a quick video to show you some of the top 5 most useful changes and items. I'm going to show those ones. I'm also going to give you a big long list of additional changes and improvements, additions that are going to be great and useful for you as well. But let me show the ones that are the most interesting. So first of all, loadouts have been added to the game. So that is super useful because if you've ever gone fishing or mining and maybe use special equipment for that, or maybe you like to change between classes, you can have different sets of gear, entirely different sets of gear, and you can switch to them easily via these over here. So I am bringing you things that we already knew are coming, but also some things that you did not know are coming, so stay tuned. So here you can click the different links. I've already swapped in some fishing gear so that I can quickly go fishing and quickly swap back to my regular stuff. And just for a demonstration, I swapped in a different set of armor in there as well. So you can have different accessories, different armor, different vanity, all that stuff. And there are also hotkeys, at least on PC. You can just use the F1, F2, F3 by default to swap between those as well, and that is just going to be super useful, especially if you like to go fishing or mining or so on. Next up, though, is the Void Bag. There are a lot of changes to the Void Bag. Of course, that already existed, but the Void Bag is extra useful now. So you can now mark it open or closed just by clicking on it up here. When it's closed, it will not automatically pick up items, which is the big difference between the Void Bag and like a piggy bank or something like that previously. So it will not automatically pick them up. It will also not automatically use them. So for instance, I have a bunch of buff potions in here. If I've closed that, it will not automatically use them when I do quick buff, but now when it's open, it will. So basically when it's open, it acts as essentially an extension of your regular inventory. You can favorite items in here now, and in fact, if you move them back and forth, they remain favorited, which is really neat. So you can keep a bunch of favorite items in there. And you'll notice as well, if I close that, all of those special accessories, informational accessories that I've put in there no longer show up. But if I open it, I've got access to my grand design and so on. Anything that's in here remains functional when it's open. So it will automatically pick up items as before when it's open. You can use items directly from it for crafting when it's open. You can use quick heal, quick mana, quick buff potions that are in there. Any items with a function such as your cell phone or grand design and so on. If I put my cell phone in, this would all remain active as long as my Void Bag is open. You can also, as I say, favorite items. You can stack to nearby chests when it's open as well. So yeah, I have some extra junk in there. You still do seem to have to, I haven't found a quicker way to open it than to either summon the portal or just go to the vault here, but you can see I've got some random other stuff that's not favorited. And if I do stack to nearby chests now, off it all goes, and there's even a little animation and so on. And oh yeah, that's only stack if there's stuff in there, of course. So I would need to go up, maybe up here, and you can see all that stuff goes away, and that's from my regular inventory as well. Should have favorited some of that stuff, but anyway, whatever, it's already in a chest that has space. Of course, that's how stack to nearby chests work. And when you do loot all, it will overflow into the bag, and this is going to be kind of neat here because I have like an entire chest of recall potions. So if I do loot all, you can see this actually shows one of the other things that items now stack up to 9,999. That's one of the other things I was going to tell you about. It also means, again, you can keep some potions in your regular inventory and close the bag to only use those, and then when you need your extra potions, you can open the bag and do your buff, and it's going to use those as well. So that's another little trick that you can do with that. Okay, did not mean to stack everything. I had prepared some items here. So next up is the Biome Sight Potion, which is brand new. And this, as you can see, shows the location of infected blocks. And it is crafted from bottled water, fire blossom, blink root, moon glow, and 5 grass seeds. And there we go. So if I go over here, Oh. I mean, if I make my way on my starboard over here to the corruption in this case, I can use that potion, and you can see it's going to show you exactly where all those blocks that are infected are. Of course, I've walled this off long ago, so you can see all the infected blocks are on one side in this case. But that's great if you're using your Clantaminator, and we're going to talk more about that particular thing and some of the changes done to that in a little bit. But in the meantime, I've got more stuff to cover, so that's going to make it a lot easier to find your infected areas. Another thing, though, that you can make now is the Shellphone. So this was not in the spoilers. Basically a combination of your cell phone, demon conch, and magic conch, or conch if you prefer. And there you go, Shellphone now. And basically, yeah, you can actually just, it's a right click on PC, you can choose where you want to go to, which is really cool. So original spawn point, home, which is your bed, which of course is right there for me right now, the ocean, back to the other ocean, which we had turned into an arena. This was our multiplayer playthrough, underworld, and back to spawn. So basically it combines the cell phone's magic mirror function with the demon and magic conch items, so that you can have all of those in one place and you don't have to have extra items there. And that, of course, is going to be super useful, again, for getting around, in addition to the pylons, of course, as well. Basically just being able to get lots of different places quicker without having to build quite so many villages necessarily. So super useful. And lets you teleport to 4 different places. Now, next up, and this is another one that was not in the spoilers, and one that's great particularly for builders, the Hand of Creation. So as you can see, it does a bunch of stuff. Increases mining speed by 25%, increases block and wall placement speed, increases block placement and tool range by 3, increases pickup range for items, automatically paints or coats placed objects, and you can hold up to reach higher. So basically it's just a combination of the Architect Gizmo pack, which did exist since 1.3 actually. It's a combination of several items from the Traveling Merchant, plus the Ancient Chisel, Treasure Magnet, and Step Stool, and boom, there you go. And basically you can do all those things, but you will need to equip it to get a lot of that functionality. So there you go, there's the step stool functionality. And well, I'm not really a builder, so I'm not going to show you a lot about that. Now I will get into a big list of additional useful changes I'm just going to tell you about. And I will add these ones in the description as well, and I'll give you a link to the change list for the 1.4.4 update. And I'm going to get away from that duck. So in terms of changes, the most extensive set of balance changes added in an update to date, even more so than 1.4 and 1.4.1. So obviously I can't get into every balance change. It's an incredibly extensive list. As I mentioned earlier, most items now stack to 9,999 in a stack, and things like the voodoo doll are now stackable, but carefully you don't accidentally use a stack of them. It has been mentioned, unintended consequences will ensue. One more item, though, that I did want to show you that is craftable now, and that actually is a magic mirror. So super useful early in the game, right? Not there. Has to be at, I'm assuming it's the anvil. So you can now craft a magic mirror from 10 glass, 8 gold or platinum bars, and 3 diamonds. And so that's going to be like, you know, instead of hunting around forever, if you happen to have those components, that's going to save you a lot of time in the early game. Speaking of saving a lot of time, smashing altars once you get into hard mode no longer generates random blocks of infection in the world. So that is actually going to be a big change and a big time saver when you get into hard mode. You can feel free to smash altars all you want and get lots of the new ores without worrying about it spawning random corruption or hallow or crimson in the underworld and then trying to clean that up. So that actually changes like a fair bit of my early hard mode strategy. Of course you can go fishing for the new ores as well, but you don't have to do that to avoid the corruption and so on. The evil biomes now infect jungle grass directly rather than transforming jungle mud into dirt. So again, a lot easier to save your jungle because of that. The rifle scope increases the range of the Clantaminator, and there is now an improved Clantaminator called the Terraformer. So those are a couple big things too. So a lot of those changes specifically really helping you save that tedious thing of trying to save the world from corruption, Crimson, and arguably Hallow in early hard mode. There is now echo coding to turn blocks and furniture invisible. There are methods now to toggle that as well, so you can have like an invisible base and toggle it on and off. Again, I'm not a builder, I'm not going to get into that. After defeating all 3 mechanical bosses for the first time in a world, Plantera bulbs should spawn. There will be one that is supposed to spawn immediately, so you won't have to wait around and hunt around quite so long, hopefully, to fight Plantera. There's a new bread item, a new wood type, and a new liquid type. I have not found out what those are exactly yet. You can now fish as long as your arms are above the bobber. So if you're partially submerged, as long as your arms are out of the water, you can fish. And you can also, that includes fishing from an inner tube. So you can float around in an inner tube while fishing now, which is kind of cool. There's also a possibility of getting a star-shaped bobber when you're fishing for your fishing bobber, obviously. Equipped bait is now shown on the cursor when you're fishing. Same for paint, showing when you have a paintbrush selected. And the particular solution you're using, if you're using the Clantaminator or Terraformer, will now show on the cursor as well. The angler set, fishing accessories, and fishing potion now show their increases to fishing power. So when you mouse over or select those, you'll actually see that information, which is helpful. There are new menu options for enabling auto swing for all weapons and for disabling quick trash if you're always accidentally throwing things in the trash. Block swap now also works for torches and campfires. The Torch God's Blessing now also applies to campfires. The Extractinator can turn fishing trash into low-level bait. There's a fly meal item to unstick PCs. Haven't had a lot of problems with that, but there's an item to deal with that situation now. Cracked dungeon bricks can now be broken by projectiles, so that'll make it a lot easier to get down into the dungeon after defeating Skeletron. There's an added, there are added recipes for all 9 safe versions of dungeon walls, which I'm thinking, I've had a lot of people, looking for a sniper rifle or a tactical shotgun, specific drops in the, particularly the post-Plantera dungeon. So you may now be able to use those recipes to craft specific areas of background dungeon walls to increase your drop rates, hopefully. Hopefully that's what that's going to mean, but you can definitely craft the different dungeon walls. Rope can now pass behind platforms and minecart tracks, and those no longer halt a player movement when you're on the rope, so that's going to make your rope usage and travel a lot easier. Heart lanterns and banners can now be hung from platforms, not just blocks. The maximum number of active buffs has been doubled from 22 to 44, so hopefully that means no more need to disable pets before you apply all your buffs for a boss fight. Station buffs like the sharpening station and crystal ball and so on have been made to last until you die. So when you apply one of those buffs from one of those stations, it'll just last. You don't need to go back and do it again unless you die. The war table becomes one of those stations now as well. It grants an additional sentry buff. Sentry duration has been increased from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, or sorry, 10 minutes. So again, less need to continually keep applying things. A lot of these are really just making your life easier and better in the game. The Traveling Merchant now has an extra guaranteed less common item in his inventory when you're in hard mode. The wait between the Old One's army rounds can be skipped by clicking on the base. Defender metal item purchase prices have been reduced 33 to 40%, so you don't need to keep farming the Old One's army event quite so much. The encumbering stone can now be toggled to active or inactive, encumbering or unencumbered, similar to the void bag, I guess, but of course very different effect. You can basically carry that around now to disable item pickup without it, being permanent. you can toggle it on and off. All accessories can once again be assigned to vanity slots, which was always a big favorite of mine. I always loved keeping extra accessories in my vanity slots, so it was annoying in 1.4 they made it only ones that actually had a vanity application, which made it sort of annoying. So they sort of reverted that, and you can now have any accessories in your vanity slots again. Informational accessory displays have been improved. You can see over here actually they gray out some of them when they're not active. There's also, if you get a gold something nearby, it's going to actually highlight in gold. Some little details like that. Again, tons of nice little details in this update. And they also significantly increase the range for quick stack to nearby chests with the added visual effect that you saw when I did that. So that's also very helpful. You can obviously, in a lot of ways, you can deal with inventory much more easily now. And so basically that's everything I'm going to include here. I'm going to give you a link. I'll give you that whole list that I covered in the description, and I'll also give you a link to the wiki so that you can see the entire change list if you really want to go into it in detail. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I hopefully might have some other videos coming soon, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.